All right, this is Module 4, Lesson 9. We're going to talk about volume of familiar solids. We're going to talk about cones and spheres. Now, to start this, it says we're going to use this figure to answer the questions to parts A through C. So, what is the area of the base? Now, the base of this is a rectangle, so area is equal to length times width. So, the dimensions of the base are 12 and 3. So, 12 times 3 is 36. That's centimeters squared. Area is always squared. Now, what is the height of this figure? Well, the height is 8 centimeters. So what is the volume? Now, the volume is going to be the base times the height. We already found the base to be 36 times 8, and 36 times 8 gives us 288. Our units are centimeters cubed. All right, what if they tell us the volume? This time they tell us the volume and they want to know the width. So we know that the length is 11, the height is 6.4. What is the width? So we know our formula is length times width times height. We're going to substitute in 295/68 for our volume. Our length is 11. Our width we don't know. And our height is 6.4. Now, we can simplify by multiplying 11 times 64 on the right-hand side. So 11 times, I'm sorry, not 64, 6.4, which gives us 70.4. So we have 295.68 is equal to 70.4 W. To solve this, we're going to subtract or divide both sides by 70.4. So we get W is equal to, so 295.68 divided by 70.4, which is 4.2, and that's inches. All right, so that was just a little warm up and review of what we've already done. So now let's take a look at the the next page. All right, so the next page says that volume is the space that a three-dimensional figure can occupy. So the volume of a glass is the amount of liquid it can hold. So the volume of the rectangular prism we just talked about is equal to the area of the base times the height. Now, we just went through a problem like this where the area of the base is length times width, and we're going to multiply that by height, which would be length times width times height, which is the familiar formula that you already know. All right, so what happens when we're working with circular objects? Some stuff like cones and cylinders, stuff like that. Well, we can express our answer in two ways. One is that we can give the exact answer, and that will contain the symbol pi. Or the other way is to approximate. Usually use 3.14 for pi, but actually New York State doesn't allow you to do that. So you would just multiply with the pi button in the calculator. Now, using what you learned in the opening exercise, let's determine the volume of the cylinder shown below. So before we start this, we have to figure out what the formula is. Now, the formula is going to be the same as what we just did. It's going to be the area of the base times the height. So what shape is the base? It would be a circle. So the area of a circle, the formula that we use is pi r squared. We then multiply that by height. So here is our formula. We often call the area of the base, we call it capital B. So a lot of times you'll see me write B equals capital B times H. Area of the base times height. All right, so of course, before we do this, we need a little cheat sheet. We need to know what is the radius and what is the height of this cylinder. So if I look at this, the radius is 2, the height is 5.3. Those are the two dimensions we're going to use. So let's substitute them in the formula. So pi times 2 squared times 5.3. Following PEMDAS, we're going to do the exponent first. So 2 squared is 2 times 2, or 4. Now you're going to do the multiplication. So 4 times 5.3 gives you 21.2, and that's pi. Now, this right here is the exact answer. Exact answers has pi in it. So this would be our volume, and of course, we need to add the units to that, and this would be centimeters cubed. All right, so let's look at other shapes. On the next page, we have, let's investigate a cone. So what would the general formula for the volume of a right cone be? Well, the cone fills up 1/3 of the whole cylinder. So the formula we're going to use is 1/3 the formula of the cylinder, which is big B times H. Remember, big B stands for area of the base. So the base, again, is a circle. The formula we're going to use is pi r squared. So pi r squared times H. So let's find the volume of this cone. We're going to use the formula 1/3 big B times H. Big B stands for area of the base, which is pi r squared. Now we need to know the radius and we need to know the height. The radius of this circle is 7. The height is 18. So 1/3 times pi times 7 squared times 18. Let's do the exponents first. So 7 squared gives us 49. Okay, now we're going to simplify this by multiplying all the numbers together. So 1/3 times 49 times 18 gives us 294 pi. Now, that would be units cubed. And that would be the exact answer. All right, so there's some exercises on the back that I'd like you to try. Just make sure you're reading the directions. When you're done, just hit play. Make sure that you have the correct answers. All right, so these exercises say to leave all answers in terms of pi. So number 1, what is the area of the base? Now remember the formula is pi r squared. So pi times the radius. Now this is the diameter. So the radius is half of that, or 6. So 6 squared is 36 pi. We always write the number first. Now that's area, so that would be inches squared. Now what is the height? The height is 25 inches. So the volume, when you would take the area of the base and multiply it by the height. So the area of the base is 36 pi. We're going to multiply it by 25, the height. So let me bring my calculator into this. We have 36 times 25, which gives us 900 pi. That would be inches cubed. All right, number 2. We're going to find the volume of the right circular cone, and we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. So volume is equal to, the formula is 1/3 big B times H. So 1/3, the base is pi r squared times height. So pi times, now my radius is 4, my height is 9. So I am going to have 4 squared times 9. Let's do the exponents first. So 4 squared is 16. So I'm going to take my calculator. I'm going to do 1/3 times 16 times 9, which gives me 48 pi. Now it does say to round to the nearest tenth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 48 times pi, and it's going to give me a really long answer. So I'm going to write the whole answer out. And then I'm actually going to round for my last step. So this 9 is going to tell the 7 to go up. And I still need my units, millimeters cubed. All right, last one. Use the diagram below to see which one has the greater volume. So we're going to have to find the volume of each to see which one's bigger. So let's start with the cylinder. So volume is equal to big B times H. The base is a circle, so pi r squared times h. Now, in the cylinder, our radius is 4, our height is 6. We're going to do pi times 4 squared times 6. 4 squared is 16. So 16 times 6 gives us 96 pi. Now I'm going to leave it in terms of pi because I can compare them even when they are in terms of pi. All right, so let's do the cone. Our formula is 1/3 big B times h. So 1/3 times pi r squared times h. Now in this one, the radius is 6, the height is 8. So I'm going to use the radius of 6, height is 8. Exponents first, 6 squared is 36. Now let's multiply. So I have 1/3 times 36 times 8, which is 96 pi. And what do we notice about their volumes? They have the same volume. All right, let's go on to the next page. Now we're going to talk about a different shape. We're going to talk about a sphere. Now, the formula that we are going to use for a sphere is going to be 4/3 pi r cubed. So here's our formula that we're going to use for all the spheres. All right, so let's actually show you how to do this. Now, the radius in this sphere is 4. So we have 4/3 pi times 4 cubed. Oops, I should probably write my formula first. All right, so I'm going to do exponents first. So 4/3 pi times. Now, to do the exponents that are not 2, you're going to use the little caret button. It would be helpful if you could see that. The caret button is the arrow that points up. So when I do 4 cubed, I get 64. Now we're going to multiply that by 4/3 to get 85 and 1/3 pi. This is asking for exact volume, meaning pi is in your answer. And we're going to label it centimeters cubed. All right, example 2. A cylinder has a diameter of 16 inches and a height of 14 inches. What is the volume of the largest sphere that will fit into the cylinder? So what is the radius of the base of the cylinder? So this gives us the diameter. So the radius would be half of that, or 8 inches. Could a sphere have a radius of 8 inches? It cannot, because if you think about sticking a ball into a can that is only 14 inches high, a radius of 8 inches would be too tall. So, no, since the height of the cylinder is only 14 inches, a radius of 8 inches would be too tall. So what size radius of the sphere would fit into the cylinder? So the radius would have to be 7 inches since the height is 14 inches. Now that we know the radius of the largest sphere is 7 inches, what is the volume of the sphere? So now let's just figure out what volume is using the volume formula. 4/3 pi r cubed. So we have 4/3 pi times 7 cubed. So 4/3 pi times, I'm going to bring my calculator in, 7 cubed is 343. I'm going to multiply that by 4/3, which is 457 and 1/3 pi. And it does not say to round, so we're going to keep that and label it inches cubed. All right, the next page is all exercises that I would like you to try on your own and check when you are finished. Go ahead and do that now. All right, so for the first one, you predict which figure shown above has the greater volume. So we're going to have to look at these. What do you think has the greater volume? That's totally based on your opinion. Part B, let's actually use and find the volume of each. So let's start with the cone. So formula is 1/3 big B times H. Big B stands for the area of the base, or pi r squared, times height. Now, the radius on this is 2.5. Height is 12.6. So substitute those into the formula. 2.5 squared times 12.6. I'm going to do the exponents first. So actually, let's put it right over here. 2.5 squared gives us 6.25. Now I'm going to multiply all the numbers together. So times 1/3 is 26.25 pi. Now I'm just comparing so I can leave it in that form. All right, now let's do the sphere. So volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. Now the radius of this is 2.8. So 4/3 times pi times 2.8 cubed. Let's do the exponents first. So 2.8 cubed is 21.952. Multiply that by 4/3, and we're going to get a nice long decimal. So 29.2693, repeating, pi. Now, just to compare them, which one has a bigger volume? This is 26, this is 29. So our bigger volume is the sphere. All right, one of two half spheres formed by a plane throughout the sphere center is called a hemisphere. So what is the formula for a hemisphere? Well, think about this. The volume for the whole sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So if you're only taking half of that, we're going to multiply that by half. Now we can simplify this formula. This cross cancels, and you get 2/3 pi r cubed. So this would be for a semicircle or a hemisphere, half of a sphere. All right, I'd like you to try the problem set for homework, and we will go over that in class tomorrow. Good luck.